Before dawn, a silent raid took place in the mountainous region of Jalisco as Mexican special forces cordoned off the entire area and deployed with a military-style approach rather than a standard arrest operation. Minutes after the distance was closed, combat erupted with heavy fire from inside the compound and helicopters circling overhead to tighten the perimeter and control the entire surrounding area. The clash was short but intense, with several cartel gunmen killed on the spot, while Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, was critically wounded and airlifted under military guard before succumbing during transport. Hours later, roads were blocked, airports closed, and several cities fell into a state of disruption as armed groups responded almost simultaneously across the country. But what caused the situation to spiral out of control was not the raid itself, but what happened immediately afterward. Special forces approached the target through mountainous forest terrain with high discipline, stopping vehicles hundreds of meters from the suspected area and proceeding on foot in the darkness to avoid detection. Night vision equipment was used to observe tree lines, rooftops, and potential sentry positions, while units maintained tight formation spacing to ensure control. The operation was based on months of intelligence gathering, including tracking supply routes, identifying security forces, noting weapon cache locations, and analyzing movement patterns linked to a specific target. Approach routes, extraction points, and defensive positions were all pre-identified, reflecting the campaign's detailed level of preparation. This was not a search patrol, but an operation built around a single target, and before the cordon was even complete, the first shot was fired. The first shots rang out from the upper floor of the compound as automatic fire suddenly opened up on the approaching forces, muzzle flashes cutting through the darkness and forcing special forces to immediately seek cover behind stone walls and nearby parked vehicles to minimize the risk of being hit. Return fire was deployed from prepared positions, maintaining control over the direction of fire and distance to avoid endangering the formation. Within seconds, the situation shifted from a silent siege to continuous, high-intensity combat, with the sound of rifles echoing through the valley and bullet tracers piercing the canopy as the guards attempted to break the tightening circle. Helicopters overhead moved closer, using searchlights to aid observation and detect movement. And from that moment on, it was no longer just a siege. Assault teams began advancing in short waves, moving from one point of cover to another under coordinated suppressive fire, ensuring that the entire force was not exposed at once. One group headed for the main entrance, while another climbed the side flank to block the rear escape route previously identified by intelligence. Cartel gunmen fired back from windows reinforced with sandbags, showing signs of prepared ammunition, firing positions, and multi-layered defenses. An armored vehicle inside the area attempted to move onto a dirt road to escape the perimeter, but was disabled by concentrated fire on its front tires and forced to stop, inadvertently blocking the only exit and leaving the entire area completely isolated. Resistance centered around the main building, identified as the target's residence, as fire teams adjusted their positions to suppress upper floor windows, limiting the ability to observe and fire back from inside. A breach team approached a side door partially shielded by a low wall, and when the breaching charge was detonated, the door was blown open and special forces entered in a controlled formation. Door breach hid, formation inside, room-to-room combat, no pauses, no retreat. Gunfire, commands, and collisions echoed continuously as rooms were checked sequentially to eliminate threats. Several gunmen were killed on sight, while others tried to retreat toward the back stairs but were cut off before they could escape. In one inner room, forces identified El Mencho being protected by bodyguards who continued to fire even as the perimeter was broken. He was struck during the engagement and collapsed among his security detail. Medics accompanying the assault force quickly approached, assessed his condition, and maintained control of the area before an order for helicopter evacuation was issued once the landing zone was secured. Helicopters landed within the grounds as ground forces established a multi-layered security perimeter to ensure safety, then took off to transport the target from the area. As the gunfire faded, the entire complex was fully controlled and remaining pockets of resistance were neutralized. The operation was identified as a high-value target strike based on months of data collection, behavior tracking, communications, and logistics network analysis. The mountainous terrain that once helped the cartel shield its activities became an isolating factor in this situation, causing defensive positions to be fragmented and unable to coordinate or effectively retreat as the circle tightened. But the operation did not end there. As the helicopters left the area, the reaction began not in one city, but nationwide as armed groups activated in at least 15 states almost simultaneously. In Guadalajara, 21 blockades were set up on main roads and highway entrances using hijacked trucks and burning buses to paralyze traffic. Flames rose high on many routes as citizens abandoned their vehicles and fled the area while masked gunmen stood guard with weapons clearly visible. In Guanajuato, a series of incidents occurred across multiple areas, with convenience stores and transport vehicles set on fire in succession. Security cameras captured groups moving in waves, approaching targets, pouring fuel, lighting fires, and retreating before authorities could respond. Airport flights were canceled, toll booths closed, and roads saw lines of vehicles stretching for kilometers as traffic was paralyzed. This could not have happened without a pre-prepared system, as the CJNG's organizational structure allowed for rapid, large-scale mobilization. Regional commanders could activate local forces on very short notice, while communication and logistics systems were designed to maintain in operations even if a central command hub was lost. When information about the leader's death was confirmed internally, orders were deployed according to a pattern resembling a prearranged plan, with each group carrying out specific tasks such as blocking traffic, causing disruption, or overstretching security forces, forcing authorities to split their resources to handle multiple points at once. Before the operation took place, a decision had changed the entire landscape when the U.S. designated CJNG as a foreign terrorist organization and offered a $15 million reward for El Mencho, thereby expanding the capacity for intelligence sharing, financial tracking, and communication surveillance. Cash flows and cross-border connections were more tightly controlled, while CJNG's network was recorded operating in 21 Mexican states and all 50 U.S. states, involved in the transport of methamphetamine, cocaine, and fentanyl. U.S. federal agencies linked many drug seizures to supply chains from the cartel amid a backdrop of synthetic opioid-related deaths reaching tens of thousands annually. After the leader was removed, the CJNG's command structure faced the risk of change, with the potential for short-term disruption as regional commanders adjusted alliances and transport routes. Another risk is competition between factions to control assets and territory, as precedents show that the loss of leadership can lead to increased violence, ambushes, and shifting alliances. Groups may set up checkpoints, block transport routes, and adjust operations to adapt to the new situation, while pressure mounts at border regions as shipping routes shift. A leader has been removed, but the structure remains, and in many cases, that is the more dangerous part, as law enforcement agencies track changes through seized data and intercepted communications to detect signs of fragmentation or reorganization. The operation achieved its military objective, but simultaneously opened a period of instability with many unknown variables. What do you think happens next?